And Coulter, this is an interesting time for the president to be travelling to Paris, not least because of America's withdrawal from the Paris climate change agreements, but also because, you know, in the UK we were expecting at some stage a visit from the president, but also because of this whole row back home over Donald Trump Jr.'s meetings and emails. What do you think President Trump's state of mind is right now?
Well, if he had to wait for there not to be a row over his alleged ties to Russia, he won't be getting much done. I think you can count on that for the next 4 years. I mean, I'd prefer to have him stay in America, just generally. That was a big part of what was so appealing about his campaign. I know a lot of other countries aren't wild about America intervening and dropping bombs on them. Well, Americans are getting a little tired of it too. When we wanted a president who would concentrate on America's problems. We need a little me time, but at least it's not Saudi Arabia. At least it's not the Middle East. It's France. It's a nice European ally. I think all of the West. I agree with his speech in Poland. The West does have to stand up for itself now, so France is an ally in the war against Islamic extremism. I think we see what was going on here. I mean, everyone has known sort of disreputable publicists who oversell something and, oh, I'm close friends with the president of Russia, and here somebody wants to meet me. I mean, the whole thing was such nonsense. I think the story is perfectly believable. Of course, you're going to, somebody says they have information about your opponent in a campaign. Of course you want to hear what it is.
Well,
I mean, we already knew
except if it comes from Russia, Max Silber come in. If it comes from Russia, presumably the first thing you'd do is you'd call the authorities.
No.
Right, especially because this wasn't just information from Russia. This was information that Goldstone said was a part of the Russian government's support for Mr. Trump and his campaign. I should also mention, as far as whether or not Donald Trump knew that Donald Jr. was having this meeting, whether or not he did, his campaign manager, Paul Manafort, who, by the way, took $10 million per year on a contract to advance Putin's interests for a Russian oligarch, was in that meeting. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who, as best we can tell, runs the federal government now, was in that meeting. I mean, this was not just Donald Trump Jr. in a Starbucks somewhere. This was a floor below where Donald Trump worked. He may not have known, but people high up enough in his campaign to be proxies for him did know about the meeting.
So, Mac, how far do you think this will go? Because I think you've said in the past you think someone's going to end up in handcuffs over this.
Absolutely. You know, it's against the law to accept items of value, whether money or information, from a foreign national or foreign government. If information was actually transferred in this meeting, that's a crime. The cover-up itself along the way has been pretty staggering. 15 days after this meeting happened a year ago, Donald Trump Jr. said that there was no communication with Russia. There was nothing like this. In December last year, Hope Hicks, Donald Trump's spokesperson, said there was no communication with Russia after the Kremlin came out and said that they were having communication with the Trump campaign. There has been a series of denials for a year now, and the fact that there's so many denials around so many meetings indicates that there's got to be a lot of fire at the center of all that smoke. Otherwise, they're just really bad at this whole PR thing.
And Matt, just remind us, how many investigations are there currently into the potential connections?
I mean, there's the special prosecutor, there's the investigation into Paul Manafort's lack of registration as a foreign agent, Manafort being Trump's former campaign manager. There's former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who resigned after a cover-up over his own Russia contacts, and then later himself registered as a foreign agent after taking millions of dollars that he had not properly reported as a foreign agent. And the list goes on and on and on. Former Trump foreign policy advisor Carter Page, possibly under investigation. I mean, there is no shortage of people who are in the eye of the special prosecutor, of the FBI, and of congressional committees right now. And the latest we heard today is that Jared Kushner is now being investigated for potentially having his digital operation that he helped push for the Trump campaign, which was pivotal in helping the campaign win, coordinate with Russian entities and essentially where to target a lot of their fake news sites. Now, there's no evidence that that is the case, but it's being investigated now, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
That's a lot of investigations.
I agree with you, Ann Coulter. I mean, if I was President Trump, I think I'd rather be in Paris, because there is not going to be a time, is there, when he's not, you know, someone connected with him is not under investigation.
Well, at the moment, the only one in the White House is Jared Kushner, his son-in-law. And as I said, I think it's a very bad idea to have your relatives working in the White House with you. And so if Jared has to go, I'm not going to be sorry about that. He's also the only one, this is crazy that any crime has been committed, the only potential crime, and, you know, he'd probably get an administrative sanction, is that he filled out his security clearance form and neglected to mention several meetings with Russians. This is about the third one now. I actually think the more concerning one, and again, I don't think it's leading to handcuffs, is a meeting Jared Kushner had with a Russian banker for the Bank of Russia. And Jared Kushner has a building that's underwater and he needs investors. I mean, that looks very suspicious.
Well,
and
do you know
he neglected to put it on his security form.